So we're going to be watching Andrew Wilson debate this dude on women's agency. This took place on Next. Let's watch.
They were made to not die. And now they have to experience the world in death. And part of that is the protectorate nature of men and the desire. Now there's a desire there for woman towards man, for man to be the head. So I don't know if that's dysfunctional relationship. I don't know if that's dysfunctional. I think you would consider that functional, right?
Are you the head of your household, Andrew? Are you the leader of your household? And if so, why?
Sure.
Why?
Well, in my sense, because I have a Christian household, and Christian households are headed by men and patriarchs.
Okay, and this is actually one of the things that I think is great about Christianity. Why are Christian households headed by patriarchs fundamentally? Like, if you could, dumb it down for me.
Well, there's multitudes of reasons. One is the reflection of Christ incarnate and how it is that he's the head of the church, and women are a reflection of the body of church, the body of believers. Another is for the sake of protection, which is why you used to have under Christianity what were called coverture or coverage laws. It's the idea that you were putting your protective cloak over a woman. There's a lot of different reasons, but so what are you kind of getting at here, though? Is what my question is.
Yeah. So fundamentally, I'm getting at like what are the correct dynamics between men and women, and I think what you just described are actually the correct dynamics between men and women. I think that women need to have direction from strong men in their lives in order to make good decisions. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, sure. But I see where you're going here. Okay, we'll get through the Socratic end of it, and then I'll do the Socratic end back the other way. But go ahead. Yes. Yeah. The answer is yes. Yes, they do. Yes, they do, bro. Go ahead. Keep going.
Right. And so to allow them to vote, and then to think that they should be able to have accountability for the decisions that they make without input from men is just like, this is insane and disordered, in my opinion.
I see. So let's see if I can do the Socratic method back. So do you agree that men are supposed to be the heads of households in the patriarchs in society?
Obviously, yes.
Do you agree that that's... Hang on. I just answered yes or no to your questions. Answer yes or no to mine.
Yeah, okay.
Do you believe that it is the case that is the biblical way things should be?
I believe that the reason why it was written down in the Bible that way is because that's actually how it is. But yes, fundamentally.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So, and are women under the Christian ethics supposed to submit to male authority?
They are supposed to submit to male authority. However,
they are supposed. My turn for the Socratic method. Okay, so they are supposed to submit to male authority. And when Eve was rebelling in the garden, was she submitting to male authority?
Well, yes, she was submitting to the serpent. I assume he's male.
No, that's not male authority. That's not a human male. She was not submitting to male authority. She was subverting male authority. She was subverting it. So the thing is what happened? There was a punishment and accountability was taken. That's what happened. So the thing is like you can't have this idea. And by the way, sewing circle Christians do this all the time and it's a super retarded take. Yes, it's true that men are supposed to lead in society and be the patriarchs, right? But you can't lead absent submission. So
well, here's
the idea,
force doctrine,
like
bro.
Here's
force doctrine.
Like here's the
yes, you can lead
right.
absent submission. You can force submission.
So then hang on. So then really what you're saying is that the men in the UK need to force women to submit to them.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
And
yes.
What are the immigrants in the UK doing right now?
Raping, pillaging, being fucking completely disruptive.
So forcing the women to submit to them, right?
Right, and so yeah, and
so hang on. I just want to make sure I got this right. that you think that that the men in the UK need to forcibly make the women submit, right? And that's the right thing to do. It's only the wrong thing to do when the immigrants are forcing the women to submit.
Correct.
Why is that?
Yeah.
Why
yeah,
is that? Because isn't it the case?
The immigrants don't belong there, bro. They don't belong there.
Oh, well, wait.
That's
Isn't it the case? Oh, isn't it the case, though, that you just got done telling me that these men are in dereliction of their duty of leadership, and that if they were showing proper leadership, they would force the women to fucking submit? So aren't the immigrants there the ones then who would be taking that spot by your logic?
They are taking that spot. Yeah, they are.
Oh, okay. I got it.
They
So then you're
literally
saying that the most godly men in the UK are the immigrants.
No, that's not necessarily what I'm saying. I can see
well,
how you would try to twist it that way.
That's the necessary entailment of your position. Here's your necessary entailment of your position. The men are in dereliction of duty, right? They're not acting as the heads and patriarchies that they're supposed to be, because you're not forcing them bitches to submit to their will. And along come these immigrants, and they're like, hey, if you're going to not do that shit, we are going to do that shit. So then they force them to do it. How is that an entailment of that not them acting exactly how you're saying that the men there should be acting?
Yeah, no, force, like, fundamentally might makes right on some level, right? And so if the immigrants are doing what the British natives won't, then, like, they're going to win. It sucks. I don't like it, right? But that's basically the way the world works.
Yeah, no. Mike doesn't make right. Might just makes. That's it. Might makes, not might makes right. Might makes.
Yeah,
you know,
so
you get enough. If you get enough people together and who say this is what's going to happen, then this is what's going to happen, and it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong.
I get it. So what you're saying though is like the British men should be fucking raping all the chicks, not the immigrants.
Well, no, not raping. So here's the difference.
Why not? Hang on. So hey, why not though?
so we're talking about two completely different populations, right? We're talking about people who were raised in the West with a certain culture and moral compass and so on, versus third world trash that doesn't have the same culture or moral compass.
Yeah, but isn't it interesting though that you say that there's a moral compass? Isn't it baked into the Christian ethos not to forcibly make people submit?
No, it's actually not. I mean, like, Paul said that shit, but like Jesus didn't say that. Look at Matthew 10:34.
Well, I'm sorry okay, yeah, let's look at Matthew. You want to let's get into the Sermon on the Mount of Matthew. Let's go through it step by step right now. Then read it out loud. Start reading it out loud.
Just give me 1 second. Starts in Matthew 6. So 1 second.
Go ahead. Start reading it out loud. Tell me all about the forcible submission. I want to hear all about it.
Well, it's actually not in the Sermon on the Mount, but
oh, it's not? That's crazy. It's not. So you're selective. You're selecting one thing out of Matthew. And by the way, if it's in Matthew, then chances are pretty good that it's in the other two Gospels as well, the Synoptic Gospels, right?
Well, the Gospels completely contradict
Matthew,
each other
Mark,
in a number of different important ways.
Okay.
The Gospels are very contradictory, bro.
I see. So now we're back to Christianity's not true, right? Christianity's not true.
That's not what I said. I said the Gospels contradict each other. That's a very specific claim.
Yeah. Well, you just got done saying that Paul. Well, you just got done saying that Paul. So I'm guessing that you're an anti. But the thing is like you can't be a Christian without Paul. That's part of the Gospels, whether you like it or not. That's part of the Gospels. And this idea that you have of forcible submission is not part of Christian ethics. It's not.
Jesus says,
so the thing is,
Jesus says specifically, a quote directly from your prophet. He says, "I did not come to bring peace, but a sword." What do you make of that?
Oh no, he said more than that. He said, "I came to set brother against brother. I came to set mother against son and father against daughter."
Agreed. Yeah.
So what he's talking. Yeah. So you need to understand the context there. And by the way, you'll find this in all three of those. Okay. And here's the context. The context is talking about a spiritual battle. It's saying that, hey, I'm not here to make nice and make cozy and things like this, right? I'm going to be pitting families against families because my message and people who convert over to it are going to have a tough time. They're going to have a tough time. And he's right. They did. They all had a tough time, and Christians are still persecuted. And he promised that that was what was going to happen if you followed his message. And that's exactly what he's talking about in Matthew. Do you think that he's literally saying in Matthew that I'm here so that I can have you men go physically make these women submit to your will? No, that's not there at all, bro. It's not there at all.
No, but here's the thing, right? Biologically, from a biological perspective, the disparity of force between men and women is just fucking obvious biological reality, right?
Who's arguing this? This is critical to force doctrine.
Right. I agree. And so what the only quibble that I had with your tweet, right, was that it seems to be contradictory to your idea of force doctrine. This idea that women should take accountability for their actions is not compatible with the notion of force doctrine. It's just not.
No, it's the most compatible notion with force doctrine. By the way, you haven't demonstrated it, and I've rebutted.
Yeah, because if women take agency for their actions, then we won't have to, there won't have to be no forcing of anybody. So yes, it's completely compatible with force doctrine. So this seems to be about Andrew Wilson's recent tweets where he was talking about what's going on over there in Europe, where the young 14-year-old girl that was arrested for brandishing an axe and a knife toward a migrant that was harassing her and her sister. And so Andrew Wilson's been talking about that, how basically the policies over there that the women voted for is what, a lot of the women voted for is what has brought on this crisis. And that seems to be angering a lot of people. It seems like this person here is arguing that, it seems to go against your view on force doctrine. The thing is, Andrew Wilson's never argued I love force doctrine. We need force doctrine. He's argued that basically it's a necessity. It's a real thing. And it's, again, Andrew Wilson's never argued for might makes right. He's just argued for, he's just argued for might makes.
Every point you've made, but I'll just go ahead and give you an easy synopsis for how it not only doesn't rebut force doctrine, but just enforces it. Okay. Do you agree that women have to appeal to men for their rights? They have to.
Women have to appeal to men for their rights. Yes.
Okay. And whatever it is that they're calling a right, whatever that is, they're going to have to appeal to men for that, right?
Agreed.
Okay, great. Do you also agree that men can take their fucking rights anytime they want? They can take them collectively.
No, I don't agree with that. At least not in the current.
Oh, you
context.
don't?
Because the state has a monopoly on violence and it enforces women's rights, right? And granted, there are some men who are complicit in that, but I would argue that they're weak simps fundamentally.
Do you understand that? Then your whole argument falls apart immediately. How can it be that you believe that women have to appeal to men for their rights, right? But men can't take their rights when they want to.
So do you agree that
it's the same exact? Hang on, it's the same exact concept. If you say in modernity they don't have to, then I would just say, well, then in modernity they don't have to appeal to men for their rights either, right?
So would you agree that there are different classes?
Hang on, answer that question. Answer the question, dude.
It's more complicated than that. Yes.
Yeah,
Look,
yeah.
I would.
It's not. It's not. You're just evading. Isn't it a logical entailment that if you have to appeal to the state or have to appeal to men for your rights, that men could take your rights anytime they want? Otherwise, why would you have to appeal to them for them?
Okay. Fine. I'll agree with you for the sake of argument. Yes.
Okay, well then all you would be left with, under your view of not having to appeal, would be what? It would be that women have to take accountability. That's it.
So Andrew,
yeah.
I I'm not trying to do like a gotcha thing with you. I promise. I actually
It's not a gotcha. It's not a gotcha. I'm showing you your logic here and where it's flawed. The case of the matter is that if it's the case that men can, whenever they choose to, take rights away from women, and I contend that they can. I contend that collectively men can do this whenever they want to, and women can't really do anything about that, right? Collectively, they just can't.
Yeah,
if that's the case, if that's the case, and women want to keep whatever it is that they have, whatever rights they have, what is the thing that they need to demonstrate? What is it?
So
accountability. Hang on. Accountability. They need to demonstrate accountability. Otherwise, what happens? Men come in and take their fucking rights.
So let me ask you a question. What percentage of the women who come on the whatever podcast that you debate with, and you know, I'll say that I love the way that you handle a lot of that, right? It's brilliant stuff. So I'm really not trying to, like, you know, fuck with you in any real way. But what percentage of the women that come on that podcast do you think take accountability for themselves?
I don't know, not very many.
Okay, and not very many. Try to ballpark it. Is it 10%, 20%?
I couldn't even give you a range. I mean, maybe less than that.
Yeah, because that's really hard to gauge, you know. So that comes from like within, and you know, some people just don't straight up take accountability like right away. It's not like they're going to say, "I'm going to take accountability right now." So yeah, that's really hard to gauge. So it actually honestly doesn't even really matter. Like they could just go ahead and assume whatever.
Yeah,
maybe 5%. Let's just say it's 0%. I'll just grant 0 of them have ever once taken accountability. Go ahead from there.
Okay, so this
I'll still show you where you're going with this and why it's flawed. So let's just say 0% take accountability. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate your magnanimity. And just for the sake of argument, it's like hundreds or thousands of women that you've interacted with on that podcast, correct?
Well, maybe not thousands on that podcast, but thousands between all the podcasts and Discord and Twitter debates. Yes.
Okay, fair enough. So you've interacted with thousands of women. You've had the ability to question them on their beliefs and their perspective on the world and so on. And for the sake of argument, you're willing to grant me that literally none of them have taken accountability for themselves or their actions.
Yeah, not a single one. Let's say, for the sake of argument.
Okay, and so like this isn't even a Socratic question. What leads you to believe that they're capable of it if that's the case?
Because of the thousands of DMs I get from women all over the world who say that I open their eyes. Because the debates with the women or the interrogations of the worldviews has never been for the women on the podcast. It's always been for the tens of thousands and many times millions who end up listening to them later.
Right. And look, I really
take accountability when they're debating. They want to win the debate.
Yeah, so I agree, and I also think that you want to win the debate, right? Like we both have egos. We both want to win our points and so on, right? And
well, no, I don't even think that that's ego driven. I just think that if your job is to represent a worldview, or you're trying to represent a worldview, you're trying to represent it the best way possible. You don't do that by losing arguments. That would be a really bad way to represent a worldview. Imagine representing a worldview and all you did was lose arguments based on that worldview. Would anybody ever follow it?
Right. So you just made my point for me that I was just saying, right? The fact that you're winning arguments is what is converting people to your worldview, and the way that you win arguments is by demonstrating some level of authority, right? And okay, if you want to quibble with my use of the word submission, fine. But what you're doing is you're demonstrating two things when you win a debate. You're demonstrating competence and you're demonstrating authority, right? Power on some level, even if it's just the power to fucking get other people to understand your point of view.
Yeah, that's a very Nietzschean take. That was a criticism he had of Socrates, that philosophy was being used from the term for power. And in some ways, I guess there's some truth to that in an abstract way. but ultimately the conversion of ideas is actually enabling other people to have power. And so usually people who are trying to convert power to themselves, they don't like to share it. So, like if you put ideas out in the ethos specifically for people to be able to use, refine, and make better, that really isn't like a show of power, or nor a submission to power. It's just an idea that, yeah, there's sometimes people agree with what I have to say, but I don't think that that's a submission to authority, dude. I don't think that those are the same things at all.
So
I think you just conflate a lot of different. You're kind of conflating a lot of different ideas together, and as we untangle them, they kind of make less and less sense. Go ahead.
I would argue.
I would say, though, I mean, yeah, I agree that the ideas is not like an assertion of power or submitting like in itself, but if you're out there making arguments and you're the best one making arguments, it's verbal combat, in a physical fight, the person that loses the fight, well, then the other person, wins and, exerts their authority pretty much. That people are going to look to that person that wins. It's kind of the same thing with like debates or arguments or sharing of ideas. It's a battle. It's just a verbal battle, but it's very much in the same vein. So I kind of get what Wolf Dog was saying, kind of.
That you're getting into semantics, right? You're arguing about definitions as opposed to the sub.
This whole thing is semantic. The whole thing is semantics right now. When you say things like submitting to authority, what is that except a semantic distinction? Now you're making a definitive claim about what authority is, what power is, and what submission is. You're making all three of those claims, and it's like, well, but I reject your kind of definitions of what these things are. I don't think that they coexist with the things you're describing.
Okay, let me put it in different words. And look, I really want us to. I feel like we have a really contentious sort of vibe right now, and I actually think that.
Well, you probably shouldn't have led with I was trying to get immigrants to rape women. I shouldn't have led with that. That wasn't the best idea.
Okay, so let me apologize to you for that. But I apologize that I cast that aspersion upon you, and I would also like to say that I didn't lead with that. That was probably about 10 minutes into the conversation. But
well, actually, you did because this was supposed to be about the tweet, right? And really, what your issue was with it was that you thought Andrew wanted immigrants to rape white women, which is fucking crazy. That's just the craziest shit, dude. Who would ever believe that?
So
how do you actually believe that? It's still mind-boggling.
So the point you're making. So would you agree that it's fundamentally women who voted for and continue to advocate for bringing in infinity third world people into the West? Like fundamentally, it's women's voting patterns that are doing that, right?
Yes, I believe that if suffrage was not universal, and not just women, I think that it would have to be restricted from some men.
Agreed.
From some men as well. But if suffrage wasn't universal, no, we wouldn't have a mass migration issue at all. No way.
Yeah,
I don't believe it.
We absolutely wouldn't have a mass migration issue. And do you think that women have way more empathy? They're built for nurturing and so on, right? And so they look at these people, they're like, oh, they live in horrible circumstances compared to us. Like they should just be able to come here and we can all get along and have a good time. And that's just kind of what they're thinking, right? Like they don't think it all the way through, right? Agreed? When they're like voting, they don't think it all the way through about like what the real actual consequences are going to be in terms of, rape numbers quadrupling in a lot of Western countries since the year 2000.
No, I don't even agree with that. So here's been my experience with this from talking to kind of as many women from across the world as I've talked to. And you still got a terrible echo, by the way. It's super annoying. But here's what I've noted. What I've noted is that they do actually try to think their vote through. Generally, as much as anybody does, as much as a man does, as much as they actually do. What they don't compensate for is unknown knowns. So you remember there was an old Rumsfeld thing where he was like, "There's known knowns, there's known unknowns, and there's unknown knowns," right? Men will also focus on the known unknowns, and women don't focus on, they mostly focus on known knowns. So this is what, we know, and this is what we know will happen. This is what all the data shows when I research it out. This is what I see as far as trends in society. So they go for known knowns, and men will go for they'll be very cautious with casting a vote on an unknown known, meaning I don't know exactly what this is going to do, so I don't think I should do it. Like that seems like it's the distinction. They do think their position out, right? They just don't think out the known unknown portion, where it's like, I'm not exactly sure what this is going to do, so I should exercise this with caution. And men have to do that as a matter of daily life, because otherwise they die.
Right.
Like if you're working on a machine, or you're building a dam, or you're doing things, there's times where it's like, this is not the time for you to take risk, right? Because it could lead to your demise, even if you don't know exactly how it could.
Yeah, fair enough. So is it fair to say, based on what you just said, that
I just want to add too that I think that a lot of the times, I think it is a lot of like, personally, I think it's just a lot of manipulation. Like, I think it's just like, there was an agenda to bring in more migrants, right, that the government wanted. And when people didn't like that, we were told, hey, you're a bad person, and you're xenophobic, and you're racist, if you don't want this. And I think that affects women more than it does men. Men don't, in general, don't really give a shit about what others like think in general, but women do. And so I think women were afraid to be seen a certain way. And then, so therefore, they browbeat kind of everybody else, like, hey, you're xenophobic, you're this, you're that. And I think that was a big part of this whole, why this was allowed to happen.
women aren't capable of thinking it through as deeply as men are? Or am I mischaracterizing what you just said?
I don't think they're not capable of it,
They
right? I just
they
think that,
generally
especially
don't.
modernity, they generally don't think about the unknown knowns.
So is it fair to say that they don't think about it as deeply as men generally do?
I'm not sure about deeply. That's where I'm having the hang up.
Okay, so
They think about it differently.
all right, so
They think about it way differently.
right. So let's say there's three different categories of things to consider when you're making a decision, right? You have your known knowns,
Yeah.
you have your known unknowns, and then you have your unknown unknowns, right? And
Right.
so what you're saying is that in general, women only think about one of those categories, and then in general, men think about at least two of the three categories. Is that a fair characterization?
No, it'd be the other way around. So the idea would be that women would think about maybe two of those categories, maybe even slightly deeper than men would, but they kind of ignore the third category of the known unknown. You know what I mean?
Got it.
It's just it just does, yeah, it doesn't move into their kind of sphere of longevity thinking. And so that's where those consequences smack. Because the truth is when you're thinking about what a thing will do, when you're thinking in the abstract, when you're talking about an unknown consequence, you know that there's a consequence, but you don't know exactly what it'll be. You just kind of are focusing on the fact that, there's a good possibility it could be bad, even if you don't know what that badness will be. That's where they seem to have more of a flailing. They seem to have more trouble with that.
Yep. I would agree. So let me just try this again. So we've broadly defined three different categories of things that you have to consider when you're making such a decision. And in general, you're saying that men generally consider all three and women only consider two of them, right?
Yeah, well, I would say that there's a lot more categories, but within the confines of these categories you're thinking of, yeah, I would say that they generally don't move towards those.
Okay.
They think
So,
differently.
so,
Yes.
so this is kind of why I was saying that you're saying that they think differently, and I'm just saying that the difference is that in general, because of the additional categories that men are able to consider, in general, men think more deeply about it than women do. Is that fair or no?
Oh, okay. Well, maybe they think more deeply on that than women do. But when you're saying deeply, I don't think that they think about their positions less than men do in these other categories. They just don't really think deeply about that category.
Right. Right. So
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So ignoring
So it's like, okay, let's say you have let's try it this way. There's 3 textbooks, right? There's math, science, and history, right? And women will focus just as deeply as men on history and math. You know what I mean? But whatever that 3rd textbook is, they don't really care that much about it. They don't really focus too much on it.
Right.
This is not the way their mind works, right?
Yeah, and so they lack a certain amount of perspective or depth of understanding because of that, because they ignore that 3rd text.
Yeah, well, I guess, sure, I'll grant it for the sake of this, yeah, just to move it along. I don't want to get caught up, bogged down on this forever, but go ahead.
Well, so if you understand math and science, but you don't understand history, like that's a huge fucking blind spot. Agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so is it fair to say then, and I don't want to put words in your mouth or make you agree with something that you don't agree with. So is it fair to say that women have a blind spot when it comes to this?
Yes.
Okay.
That's fair.
Perfect. And so because of that blind spot, right, it makes it much more difficult to make a good, coherent decision. Agree?
Yes, for some issues it is, absolutely.
Yeah. And so all I'm saying is that because women are not necessarily as able to make or as inclined to make a good, coherent decision about certain things,
Yeah.
like they just like they can't understand the consequences of their actions on some level because of that blind spot, and it's a fucking huge blind spot.
That, see, we were all good, and then he took it one step too far. I don't know why you guys always do this, but you see how those 2 thoughts don't actually connect, right? So you saying that they have a blind spot means they can't be held responsible for their actions. You have to really fucking connect those dots for me here, bro. You gotta connect those for me here.
You're right. Let me rephrase, because that was imprecise. Let me see if I can take a better swing at it. So because of that blind spot, right, it's obvious to you and I that they lack a certain amount of perspective, right? Okay, so maybe they should be, if you want to say should on some level, they should be held accountable for their actions, fine. But it's like asking a blind person to fucking judge high diving or something, right? Like when they invariably disagree with the other judges, it's like obviously because they're fucking blind. They didn't even see what happened.
Yeah, but if the blind person says that they can make the judgments, and then they go in and they clearly can't make the judgment, and you don't pay them because they can't make the judgment, aren't they feeling the consequences or the accountability of their actions? Like, you're not going to say because he's blind, he's not accountable for coming in and making those judgments, even though he clearly could.
So even if the blind
yeah, that's a good rebuttal from Andrew. Like, I don't know why this dude is trying to, like, claim that women don't have any agency. Like, of course they do. They're human beings. Human beings have agency.
You would never say that, ever.
Even if the blind person thinks they can make those judgments, right, it's the fault of the person that put them in that position, right? Like, it's not the blind person's fault for not understanding, for not knowing what they don't know. It's the person who allowed them to make those judgments that's actually at fault on something.
They do. Hang on, but they do know, right? They do know. Like, what do you mean? You think a blind person doesn't have enough judgment to know that he can't see, or what, or she can't see? They do.
So
if they enter into one of these contracts and say, I have just as much capability as you do of judging this, here, I'll prove it, and then they can't, You hold them accountable for it.
So Andrew, would you agree that earlier we were talking about men and women that you've talked to over the course of your career, right? And you basically said that no women take accountability for themselves and almost no men do. And I don't want to put words in your mouth. So is that a fair summary of what you said?
No.
Okay.
What I said was that for the sake of argument, I'll put it at 0%, which I'll still stand by here. And that during an argument, almost no men take accountability. As many men take accountability as women during an argument.
Okay. All right, fair enough. So is it fair to say then that in general, humans, regardless of gender, have a tendency to be somewhat delusional?
Well, yeah. I mean, that by necessity they do, yeah.
Yeah, by necessity, right? So the blind person might be delusional, but like people who are the definition of a delusion on some level is that you don't know you're in it when you're in it. Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay. So the blind person could have a delusion that they're able to judge like a high dive competition or whatever, right? But then if some committee or someone hires them to actually do that job, right, and then they fail at it, I would argue that the failure is not the fault of the delusional person because they're fucking delusional, right? The fault is the person who put them in that position. They set them up to fail, essentially.
Wouldn't you just say the fault was both?
I mean, all right, yes, but if you had to pick 51%,
I was like, what?
So if you had to pick who's more responsible, though, right? Because shared responsibility means no one's responsible.
Huh?
Okay, so I mean, even if we took this analogy to its conclusion, then that would still mean women need to take accountability. Just men need to take slightly more accountability.
That actually might be a fair characterization of the way I see it. Yeah. I mean, fundamentally, the buck has to stop with someone, right? Someone has to take responsibility for what happens. And my fundamental position is that men should be ultimately, even if it's 51-49, men should be the ones who take responsibility and accountability way more often than not. Are you there? Yes. And again, like Casey Anthony,
they get half the spend. Okay, so here's the world that you propose, dude. This is the world that you propose is that women have equal enfranchisement, and as long as it's the case,
no, that's not what I propose at all. I don't think they should have equal enfranchisement.
Hang on. Descriptively, it's true though that they do.
Well, that was the point I was just making, and you were telling me that that was nonsense. You were like, "Oh, you're evading."
No, you were evading answering the question of ought. So the descriptive claim here, though, is they have equal enfranchisement. The ought under this is even with equal enfranchisement, right? They should be punished at half the level of men for the exact same crime because they didn't know no better. Do you realize like how feminist this position is, dude? You realize how this has got to be the most white knight woman apologetics I've ever heard in my life. You're basically giving women a pass on the horrible things that they do by simply saying that they don't have the capability of even making rational decisions for themselves. They just don't even have. They're just not capable of it.
So you're literally your entire job, dude, is to point out how women don't have the capacity to make rational decisions. You realize that? Like that's literally what you're known for.
No, it's not what I'm known for. Force doctrine has nothing to do with whether or not women can make rational decisions. Nothing. Zero. Has zero to do with it.
Look at your podcast, bro. You bring on whores, OnlyFans whores, right, with their tits out and shit, and then you debate them about their decisions and make them look foolish.
Do you like to? I mean, how many more lies are you going to tell? The grand total of all of the OnlyFans women who have ever been on whatever is 15%. Almost every woman who goes on there is way more educated than I am. Most of them have degrees. Many of them have multiple degrees, and tons of them are the same fucking age I am. So tell another lie. Tell another fucking lie.
Yeah, it's so when people argue this whole, like, you just go on whatever podcast and just embarrass women or something, you could tell that they don't really listen to the debates. They just see clips online. Because Andrew Wilson debates all sorts of people, not just only OF girls. He debates all kinds of people, even on the whatever podcast, he's debating all kinds of people on there. So this whole notion that he just goes and embarrasses these women on there, it shows that the person doesn't know what the heck they're really talking about. Their perception just comes from random clips online.
Yeah, do you think that degrees mean that someone knows what the fuck they're talking about? Because I know tons of people who have degrees who don't have any idea.
Well, I think that this idea that they're just all dumb bimbos and OnlyFans whores, when none of the data bears that out, and it's a complete and total lie, and it only comes out of the mouth of people who don't watch the show, makes me think that you don't even watch it, so you just don't even have a clue what you're talking about.
Okay, look, I have watched a lot of clips from the show.
Clips.
A lot of bait clips, bro.
No, from the whatever I follow the whatever podcast clips channel on YouTube, and I watch tons of clips directly from that. And there are a lot of fucking whores on that show who don't know what they're talking about. Like whether
there's a lot of people everywhere who don't know what they're talking about. But interestingly enough, I haven't found the prostitutes to be any worse at arguing than a lot of the men I argue with.
Yeah.
Like the ones, for instance, you might think that these prostitutes say insane shit, but I haven't really heard any of them say that women should get lesser sentences for crimes in comparison to men, and definitely not half the sentence because they shouldn't have any accountability. Boy, that's I don't even think a prostitute would make that argument.
That literally is what happens, though. Like Casey Anthony drowned her fucking children.
No, it's literally not what happens. Yeah, and there's tons of women who killed their kids who got life in prison. What's your point? It's not even a descriptive truth. What you're saying is not even descriptively true. It's not even descriptively true. Under the law, they're supposed to get equal punishment.
Okay.
So it's not even descriptively the case what you're saying. You're pointing out an outlier.
Well, even him pointing that out, like even him pointing out that women get lesser sentences for the same crime as men in general, that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that by nature women should have less agency or whatever. It doesn't prove his point at all. He's again pointing out something that is instead of something what it just has nothing to do with the point he's making.
And you know what? OJ got off too. OJ got off too, bro.
There's tons of data on this, bro. If you look at the data, women get lesser sentences for basically anything violent than they do compared to men. Like this is very well documented.
No, not for all. No, because it's not true. What you're citing now, violent statistics studies. They're talking about how courts hand out lesser sentences for many of the same types of crimes that men commit. That's true, but it's not all types of crimes. You understand that?
The vast majority, and do you understand?
It's not the vast majority. It's not the vast majority.
Are a heuristic, and they're true more often than not. And that yes, there are exceptions to every generalization, but the exceptions serve to prove the rule, not to fucking.
Sure. There's nothing wrong with utilizing a heuristic or a mental shortcut, which is what a heuristic is a mental shortcut. There's nothing wrong. I wouldn't even care if you were monolithically using a heuristic, because I would know what you were talking about. But in this case, you got to be specific when you're saying in society, descriptively, women get lesser punishments for the same crime as men. No, in some cases, that's the case. In some types of crimes, that's the case. So that's not a heuristic. That's just a falsehood. Right?
So
it's not a heuristic.
In most types of crimes, that's the case. Again, Ghislaine Maxwell, who was essentially one of the most prolific pedophiles ever in human history that we know of, just got moved to a fucking country club, right? A country club.
Well,
the man who was also involved with her got fucking murdered 6 years ago now.
Was Ghislaine Maxwell actually convicted herself of sexually assaulting anybody underage, or she was the organizer, right?
Well, okay, so what she got convicted of in court is not actually what she did. not all of it, right? Like she got convicted of sex trafficking, but then we don't know who these children were trafficked to. And so it's really weird that you have
Yeah,
a sex trafficking conviction without,
yeah, I don't
without
disagree.
any crime.
Look, I don't disagree with any of this. I'm not disagreeing with any of that. I'm just pointing out to you that I can give you case after case after case of women getting the fucking book thrown at them. I can give you a case of a woman who, this went viral everywhere. She hired a fucking hitman to kill her husband. They put her in for the max sentence. Like, no, dude, I don't. What you're talking about right now is the same shit that you hear from black people who say, well, it's due to these contributing factors of racism. It's why we get punished more than whites. You know what I mean? It's the same style of argument there. There's a lot more there than meets the eye. Like I can give you this other example. There's a study, for instance, that if you have black sounding names, you're less likely to get hired, right? And that's statistically true. You're less likely to get hired. But you know what they didn't do? They didn't take white trash sounding names like Bubba, Bubba, Cletus, shit like that, and compare the data there to see if they were less likely to get hired too, based on the white trashy sounding names.
Yeah,
so it's like
there's Cletus.
Yeah, exactly. So there's bias in these all the fucking time. And well, yeah, when you're gonna pull stats, yeah, I want you to be specific with stats. I do, yes.
Well, I mean, in general, right, like stats are useful on some level, but as Mark Twain once quipped, like you have lies, damn lies, and statistics. Like at the end of the day, it's just monkeys with a clipboard who are gathering.
Then why are you saying it's a descriptive truth?
Well, I mean, we have to
yeah, that didn't make much sense, did it? You got caught there pretty bad, didn't you? Yeah. Why would it be a descriptive truth if you don't believe in the fucking stats to begin with? So like, I mean, you kind of refute yourself. You kind of refute yourself every few minutes here, dude. But we're also steering away from this great point that you made, which is, hey, Andrew, I think that women have half the accountability of men and should get half of the sentence for horrible things they do than men should get.
So again,
yeah, this guy just doesn't know what he's talking about. And to argue that women have no agency and such, like it's just wacko. Like if you're a human being, you have agency, or else then why would we treat any other humans differently? It's like we don't give the dog agency, right? We don't give like an animal agency because they're animals. They have no capacity to think rationally and logically. So to say that, well, women are the same way, it's like it's wild. Absolutely they do have agency, and I think Andrew did a good job here debating this guy. But what did you guys think about it? Leave a comment in the comment section below. Hit that like button, subscribe to my channel. You'll be helping me out a lot. I'll have the full debate. If you want to listen to the full thing, I'll have it linked down below. It is from the channel, what channel is this from? Tink About This. Tink About This is the YouTube channel I got this from, and I have a link to it down below.